Hey everybody, and welcome back to a brand new video. And I would like to say Happy One Piece Day for anyone out there who enjoys One Piece. Yes, One Piece Day is basically going on in Japan, I believe. And yeah, so I figured in honor of One Piece Day, I think I'll do a video today. And also the fact that today is my day off, so that's probably also another reason why I'm doing it. All right, so I think I'll just basically do the second part of continuing on from this three-part video that I'm basically doing on Nami and stuff like that. So if you're not familiar with what I'm basically doing, I'm sort of presenting the general concept and idea of if a moon goddess exists or any kind of moon god deity fruit, what is the implications of something that could happen to their body, right? And what I wanted to basically do and sort of theorize what I'm presenting here is the idea that it's following a similar pattern to Luffy's Devil Fruit, but it's not necessarily the same thing. So take, for instance, a bit of a recap in the previous videos like that, and I'll have a link down for it below. But in the first one, I sort of went over how I basically came across this general idea and why I felt like it made sense to me. So take, for instance, Luffy. So as we all know, Luffy's Devil Fruit, the Gomu Gomu no Mi, which is really basically referred to as the human fruit model Sun God Nika. Anyone who eats it, their bodies turn into the properties of rubber and things like that. Now, the interesting thing about this is that when I was thinking about that and going over it, one of the first things I did to basically think of something was look at different insulators, not just electrical insulators, but thermal insulators, and to figure out which one would actually symbolize the moon the best. And I chose to go with glass. Now, the second best option I would have gone with would have been porcelain, but I felt like glass was a little bit more unique, and it just felt like it made more sense to represent the moon than anything else. But that's just me on that part. All right. So, as I mentioned before, there were other things that came into play as well, especially the four materials also impacting the four gods that were mentioned in the Sky Island arc. That was one thing as well. Now, what am I going to be doing in this video necessarily? Well, in this video, what I'm going to be discussing on this portion and of this continuation of this Nami Moon Goddess Devil Fruit theory is I'm going to be sort of presenting the idea and concept of like what are the transformations, like what do I define as the transformations in this form compared to Luffy. So take, for instance, Luffy's transformation states most likely seem to reference his gears. So his gear, his gear second, gear third, gear fourth, with its three forms initially, and plus the final one, the gear fifth. So that basically sort of brings into question, how could I visualize and see the transformation states of this particular Devil Fruit working compared to that? So that's what this concept of this video is going to be. And as sort of a bonus, I'm going to add in my one of the biggest reasons why I think Nami could have the Devil Fruit, but that's literally just me just throwing something in there, and it probably has no evidence of it's actually supporting the details, but it's something that it's something that brings me hope, even though I know it's technically not completely factual. All right, so let's get into the actual context of the video, okay? So thank you for joining me, and let's get started. All right, so as we sort of know with Luffy's gears and stuff like that, it's an interesting point out here that when you look at Luffy's gears necessarily, they sort of take inspiration from the human body itself. So take, for instance, like Luffy's gear second seems to take inspiration from the circulatory system, right? Like he's able to get his blood moving a lot faster in order to get his heart pumping in order to move at incredible speeds. Gear third, he blows air into his bones and stuff like that, making his bones bigger. Gear fourth, he blows air into his muscles, and he's got three total forms of Gear fourth. Gear fourth Bound Man, Gear fourth Take Man, and Gear fourth Snake Man. So that's three forms. And then for the fifth one, which most likely might take inspiration from the nervous system, since it seems to be since it's Luffy's awakened form, and the fact that you figured that with Awaken it would be more in tune with the mind itself. So the nervous system is basically like the brain sending signals throughout your body and like that to basically feel pain or move the body to where it is. It's basically your nervous system to allow you to basically be able to feel nerves and like that, control nerves and like that. So it'd be more in tune with that necessarily, but that's just like how it actually goes. So now, I don't think it would be necessarily a good fitting idea to follow that same pattern and base it off the human body for this concept. But what I actually decided to do is be a little bit more mysterious and a little bit more hiding. So what I decided to do is take transformations and have each transformation sort of hide the user, or rather than show the user, and tune the awakened form where it's going to be revealed. So take, for instance, and I chose four words to represent the transformations on. So nebulosity, invisibility, reflectivity, and luminosity. And what I'm going to be doing in here is that this concept is that fact that each transformation basically hides the user into the awakened form. So let's start with nebulosity. Nebulosity basically refers to a word that basically describes something that is the state of being nebulous, alright? So in other words, it's basically referring to like a cloud-like, basically referring to something that's cloud-like or cloudy-likeness. Yes. It can also refer to something that is, hazy, and you can also use it to describe as something that is mysterious, all right? Now, nebulosity obviously comes from the word or nebulous,
which are basically clouds that are forming outer space. These are outer space clouds rather than regular cloud surface clouds, right?
Now, the interesting about this in the stealth route is that the transformation basically hides the user, or basically turns them into some kind of cloud-like structure, and they're basically hidden, and you don't know what they resemble and stuff like that. It's kind of a unique transformation and to actually go with. And because of this, I figured what I'm going to be presenting here is that each transformation that hides the user, or before you get to their awakened state, it's going to be sort of a rumor or question. What exactly is Nami going to look like at the end of the day? Hey, it's going to be a mysterious thing. Is she going to look exactly like Sun God Nika, or is she going to look like something completely different? That's sort of the question, all right? And I'm going to basically have it as sort of a chain of event, wondering or questioning, like, will she look more beautiful than ever, or will she become some kind of monster, some kind of wild beast? And I figured keeping the mysterious effect on it, it would be really something as well. All right. So as I just got done mentioning, the first one is going to be focused on nebulosity, allowing the user to turn themselves into some kind of cloud-like matter or state. All right. Now there could be other interesting things about that, whether or not it be like a white cloud, a dark cloud, a gray cloud, or even a rainbow-filled color cloud. That's really here and there on that part. I suppose anyone could be a good idea, but the main concept of it is to allow the user to become some kind of cloud-like structure. All right. This next one will be focused on invisibility. So this one will basically turn the user invisible completely. So in this form, you can look at basically the Clif fruit as an example, which used to belong to Absalom, and now is in the hands of one of the Blackbeard pirates, Shiryu. I'm having a hard time pronouncing his name, but I'll have a picture of him up and like that. That way you can see him. Okay. Okay. It can sort of reflect this necessarily. Except just like I mentioned before, with the Clif route, even though he is invisible to the he's invisible to the actual characters in the One Piece manga, he is visual to the readers. There's one Oda size to show him, it's like that. But here with this concept, it's keeping the idea that the image itself is literally mysterious. So like if take for instance, if it's basically kept invisible, not only to the players, to the characters, but to the readers themselves, more questioning is like, okay, what exactly are these transformations? What exactly is Nami going to look like at the end of the day? Hey, and some people might even question, might be saying like, these don't feel like transformations; these just feel like unique powers and stuff like that. Well, that could be the case, and I could technically agree with you on that. But I feel like it's just a little bit more presentable. Well, that's just me on my opinion. Okay, so hey, you don't have to enjoy it. You don't have to like it. This is just me giving my opinion. Okay. All right. Then for the next one will be reflectivity. So reflectivity is basically something that is described something as reflectance, right? Something that has the qualities or the state of light that can be reflected off of something. So take for instance, a good way to represent this as an example, is with a mirror. So just like mirrors can reflect an image and like that. So when light, basically how it basically works is that light that bounces off our eyes and allows us to see what we're seeing. So basically, what we see in a mirror reflects back at us because of how light works. Now, because of this, it basically brings up the question, and that is really good to point out here, is that the very good concept here is that the Delph fruit that turns Nami into a mirror. So basically her body's like a mirror now, and that anyone who looks upon it is going to see themselves. So take for instance, if Luffy looks at Nami, he's going to see himself. If Zoro looks at Nami, he's going to see himself, right? It's not the concept of Nami transforming into that person, it's Nami literally transforming into a mirror. And keep in mind here is that while the mirror can reflect you, the mirror does not reflect the mirror itself, alright? So take for instance, like while you can see the mirror here, and while I can see the mirror here, if I'm just looking at this and I don't have any other way to see this mirror, technically this mirror, then this mirror cannot reflect the mirror here. If I hold up to another mirror, that's for sure. But the concept here I'm providing here is that the mirror only reflects what is shown on, and not what is the mirror itself. So that's basically the concept I'm presenting here. Okay. So that's the basic idea on that, and I might actually provide that with like a second form. Maybe having the idea of an X-ray form in the air would be a little interesting. Maybe something to add a bit of a Brook theme in the air necessarily that would allow the user to not only reflect a person's outer image, but maybe their inner image, like maybe like their bone structures like that, and maybe even like tell like where their weak pains are and stuff like that. Maybe reflect something a little bit more unique. Maybe reflect their age, or maybe reflect their memories or their past moments. Something that would confuse them. It's crazy to like theorize how that could actually work and if it actually could work. But it really comes down to how well the story can be written. Okay. All right. Now, for the next one, we'll focus on luminosity, which will basically be the awakened form. So, in this concept right here, this is going to be the form that will basically reveal what has happened to the user. So, we'll finally get to know what exactly is the transformation, like what exactly is the mysterious transformations, like that. How does it work? What is more defined by it? And I think focusing on luminosity basically is a good way to represent it. Luminosity basically refers to something that is the luminous state of something, right? And this can refer to it basically refers to like the luminous light of something, and this can refer to anything that can be luminous or considered the state of luminous, right? You can even refer to this like rainbows themselves, moonlight, light, whatever you like to refer to. It's basically referring to something luminous, right? Even take the concept of the sun itself. That just like I mentioned in the last video, that when Luffy turns into the sun god Nika, his hair becomes all white. I'm sort of presenting the idea here is that the transformation would actually allow the user to manipulate the colors of their surrounding, and allowing them to become white would be a little bit more interesting. I also threw black in the air because white and black are the combination of all the colors, with white being the addictive colors and black being from the subtractive colors. And when you mix white and black together, you get gray, which usually symbolizes the color of the moon. So I figure that's a little bit more unique. And maybe instead of like your fourth being the three forms, maybe luminosity, that one could actually reflect the three forms. Three different forms. So with the awaken, it would be on that. So you would have like maybe a positive form, a negative form, and a balanced form. So that's just something to go over necessarily. So the positive one maybe reflect the positive emotions and feelings, while the negative form would represent something that could be bad or considered negative, something that you really wouldn't want. And before everything is balanced out to where you can have a smile on your face even if you're upset or angry, but that might also be a little deranged because imagine. Yeah, that would be a little bit messed up if you think about if you put it into the wrong context. So, I guess you'd have to speculate on how that could actually work. But hey, I suppose some crazy things have happened in this last manga story 4. So hey, what's another crazy thing to go over? All right, so that's what I have on those transformations and stuff like that. Now, other unique abilities on the glass that I'm sort of presenting here, and I might really consider calling it the Niko Nami, even though Niko actually has nothing to do with the word glass, right? It's a little unique necessarily, but what I might do is sort of present the idea that there's maybe two fake names, right? And then you have the real name. So the real name would be the human fruit model lunar god, whatever the name might be, all right? It's hard to really speculate what the actual name could be and stuff like that, but for argument's sake, let's look at other things, and I'll explain the two portions. So I think I explained this in the last video, but just in case I didn't, I'll explain it again here. So, Garu would actually come from the word Garasu, meaning glass, okay? Now, for Niko, the Niko Nami could actually take inspiration from the fact that if Nami sort of named the Devil Fruit Niko Nami, maybe she could do it in honor of Nico Robin herself, right? That's one possibility, all right? Niko could obviously come from the Niko calendar, or a calendar that is used in workplaces to measure, not really measure, but sort of like determine or get the idea of how someone's feeling that day. So if you had a happy face, sad face, angry face throughout the workday, to sort of come to an understanding and try and figure out, trying to help you through it, right? Now, and there will be more on this in the third video because I'll be going over the different Japanese word for glasses and looking at the Gorosei numbers, and looking at different chapters and figure out which one can actually bring in inspirations, and that'll be focused in the third video. Okay, so continuing on. So the Niko Nami it could be described from like maybe inspiration from Niko, from the Niko calendar, but also from Niko, meaning sunlight, right? And just like I said, that the power of the still fruit obviously gains most of its power from sunlight itself. And that's an interesting point out here on the moon, that the moon, it does not present its own light, it's just sunlight reflected off the moon, which actually fits real well with using glass as a theme, because glass is one of the Glass is one of the most unique things on Earth that that is used in everyday basics to actually reflect something, whether that be an image, whether that being light, whether that being anything. And glass is one of the many unique things. It's not the only thing, but it's one of the many unique things on Earth that is used to basically reflect something, even light. So glass is something unique to go with to represent the moon, which I think works really well. All right, now there was one thing I forgot to mention. All right, so in the last video I mentioned that there were three unique things on the Delphi. All right, number one, it turns your body into a glassy state. All right, number two, it allows you to manipulate others' emotions and feelings, and number three, it gains power from sunlight. However, there's one other thing I forgot to mention, and that you basically have the power to control lightning. All right, you basically have lightning element power. So take for instance Luffy. He's able to basically able to start a friction or basically manipulate fire because of the sun god. Well, it's interesting here to point out here, and I'm not the only one to actually seen this. Other people have seen this too. That if you look at any character who has any real ties to the moon, necessarily, they've all, like, most of the characters have had a way to manipulate lightning. All right, take for instance Enru. Right, Enru has the Gorogormi, allowing him to turn into the element of lightning. All right, he is literally on the moon right now. You look at the minks. All right, the minks have and lightning-based, electricity-based power, and they can turn into a Sulong form, or basically referred to as moon lion, with the help of the moonlight itself. As long as the moon is there and they're able to see upon it, they can literally turn into a Sulong form. Now there are other characters with unique ties to the moon, but they're not ties to the moon as in the moon itself, because I wouldn't really consider take for instance Odin or his families like that. You know, they have the names, or even like the other citizens of Wano, with some of the families having moon in the kanji or the name. That's just a name, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's referring to the actual moon itself. Right, so this is more focused on the moon itself. So, you know, we have someone who literally is going to the moon. We have someone who can literally transform with the help of the moon. Imagine having someone who can actually represent the moon itself, as in the actual moon deity. Just like Luffy is the sun god deity, imagine actually having the actual moon god deity itself. And maybe using Nami as a basis for that could actually be a little bit more presentable. Cool. So that's just me on that part right there. So hey, it's a crazy idea. You don't really have to enjoy it. You don't have to think it's important, but I think that's a little bit more unique. All right, so I think for the final part on this video, necessarily, what I'll do is sort of give really good inspiration of why I believe this could actually be Nami. All right, so, and I might actually throw one more thing there. Yeah, so I'll throw two things in here. Okay, so the first one is this. So, all right, so first I'll throw my idea on what the fruit could actually be. So we all know that Nami loves Mekins and stuff like that. So maybe using some kind of a Mekin fruit, or some kind of fruit that can maybe resemble a Mekin, or in the same family as a Mekin, such as the citrus family. All right, and there's one thing I actually decided to choose. All right, so take for instance, both of these could be unique to present what I'm going for. So there was an SBS that was very similar to the all right, so these two SBS questions happen at different years and different times, but they're very similar. So for this one, focus on the fact that when someone asked Nami or asked Oda, if the choice from were lived in Japan, what prefecture would you want them to live in? And Nami, he chose Ehime, or Edheim, however that word's pronounced, right? I believe it's spelled E-H-I-M-E, which I think it's supposed to mean like princess, something like lovely princess. Crap, I can't remember what the Ehime is supposed to refer to, but the Ehime is basically one of the biggest districts in Japan that actually produces Mekin's fruits a lot. Okay, and there is actually something very unique called the Kanpei, which basically refers to the which another name for it is the Ehime Queen Splash. All right, Ehime Queen Splash. So basically the Queen Splash fruit. Okay, and I believe choosing this to basically reference or use it as the means or the actual identity of the Delphi itself might be a little bit more unique, right? Take for instance Luffy's Delphi, the Gomu-Go-Nami, is actually modeled, from what I understand, is modeled after the Yubari King, right? So Luffy has the king in the title, and he's aiming to be Pirate King. You know, a lot of fans out there, especially with Oda releasing, basically giving us a shirt that basically refers to Nami as the Weather Queen. A lot of people out there want Nami to be the Pirate Queen. Why not give her a fruit that could actually have Queen in the name? And hey, she likes Mekin and she likes citrus fruit, so not all citrus fruit, I should probably mention, but hey, maybe giving her one that actually can have the name Queen in the name might be a little bit more presentable, might be a little bit more unique. So that's something on that. Now, for the final one I'm going to be doing is for this one. So, alright. So, as I just mentioned, that Oda basically referred to Nami as if she lived in Japan, the prefecture would be Ehime, from what I understand. This is very similar to this concept, but remember that when somebody asked Oda if the Straw Hats had a nationality, what kind of nationality would you want them to be? And for Nami, he said Sweden. Now, why am I bringing this up here? Well, in chapter, let's see, what chapter was it? I believe it was chapter 1011. So, basically, 1011. Yeah, 1011. All right. So if you go to this chapter and look at the color spread, the color spread is called soft serve, right? And basically basically has all the Straw Hats eating ice cream, giant ice creams and things like that. And you have giant glass cups filled with ice cream. Now the interesting point here is to look at Nami. Out of all the Straw Hats seem to be in their normal height and form, Nami is literally a giant in this case, which is literally unique, right? And that actually might bring into something more interesting, and the fact here that maybe this is going to hint at something. So, why is this important? Well, if anyone out there is Sweden, they probably already sort of get what I'm referring to. But if you actually look at the Sweden word for ice cream, so if you translate ice cream into Sweden, the word is translated as glass. Yes, glass, as in GLASS, which is really unique. Now, it could also be possible. Well, wait a minute, hold on. Couldn't Oda just be telling us that Nami's gonna eat the ice cream fruit and become the ice cream human? Maybe the moon is made of ice cream, people. All those stories and all those theories out there that the moon was made of cheese was all a lie. It was literally made of ice cream. Yes, the mystery is solved. Oh, that's the big secret that Neil Armstrong kept from us on the moon. The moon was made of ice cream. Yeah. Okay, I'm getting a bit of a wild tangent on that part right there. A bit of a joke on that part, so you can ignore that part. Alright, but yes, that's my main big reason why I think Nami could actually be represented and stuff like that. Plus, whenever Oda can get a chance to draw Nami big and stuff like that, it's literally mind blowing. And keep in mind, when Oda ever does his arts, it's not always for himself, but it's also to answer fan requests and fan questions. But Oda always does something unique or adds in something mysterious to make that say, hey, keep your eyes open for this. This might come up later, or it might not. So it's really just throwing something in the air, just a bit of a creativity. But it's a little unique to think about it. Plus, if you look at any other kind of color spread or color story where the Straw Hats are eating some kind of ice cream or some kind of ice cream thing dessert, he always puts Nami in the foreground. Like Nami's always in the front, which is a little bit more unique. Whether or not she'd be gigantic, whether or not she'd be in the front, it's literally focused that he's focusing on Nami in these situations. It's like we need to keep focused on Nami, but what exactly does it have to mean? All right. So that's the main concept of what I'm presenting here in the video. I think that's all I literally got. I can't think of anything else. So that's basically it. Hey, thank you so much for joining me for today and stuff like that. I don't know when the next video will be out, but I'll try and get it out as soon as I can. I appreciate you all coming to watch this video and stuff like that. I thank you for staying tuned to the very end to sort of hear my presentation on the matter. Thank you so much. Hey, if you enjoyed anything I had to say or anything I had to offer, please let me know by leaving a comment down below on your own opinions. Feel free to hit the like button to show your support. Subscribe to the channel if you feel like I'm something that brings you inspiration and you want to see more of it. Hit notification bells, that way you keep up to date on the next video. So many things, right? There are so many things to mention, so many things to lay down, and it's just amazing. So thank you. You all have a good day. Bye now.